So we like challenging every South African. If you're not leaving and you're staying, you've got to roll up your sleeves. You've got to come to the point where you say, this is my home, this is my house, this is my town, this is my province, this is my country.
I'm not leaving this country for anything. Call me whatever, I'll work with you tomorrow.
Thank you so much, Johan, and also for recognizing me as a pastor, even though I'm not going to preach. So my name is John Mathuhle, and as Johan rightly said, that I'm also a pastor, and I'm married to a beautiful woman, my wife, Cecilia Mathuhle, and we are blessed with 6 children. So I'm a very rich pastor. So all the pastors will understand here. This is now I'm just giving a secret for, I'm giving out our secret. If you are a young pastor and you want to start a church and you struggle to get the members, what do? You watch your wife. Yeah, you watch your wife and you say to her, baby, we have to do it ourselves. And that's actually what happened. But somebody said, but the only problem, Pastor, is that now you have to sponsor all the tithe and offering because it will have to come from the house. But yes, our story actually started a little bit different with a crisis. I really believe the Lord helped us to transform it into an opportunity and a testimony. And we call it now the miracle that keeps on growing, because it never ends. And it started with a young farmer called Brendan Horner, who was brutally murdered on a farm that he was managing there close to Senekal. And my first encounter with this young man, it was over Facebook. There was something about his face that really hit my heart and made me to realize that, there's a saying that the evil grows, or it increases because good men and good women do nothing. And I realized that I was one of those people that just, kept silent. It's not my problem. I've got my black problems. So this is a white problem. So as that is something in the attitude in South Africa, us and them. So if it doesn't happen to me, if it doesn't happen to my people, so I've got no business with it. And that's where the Lord really challenged me and said, what are you going to do about this? And you can argue with the Lord and say, but Lord, we've got enough deaths and murders in our communities. I mean, women and children are almost every day are being murdered in South Africa. In fact, South Africa has become one of the murder capital of the world. But if you are challenged at that level, where the Lord is actually challenging you to flow against the stream, you are really defenseless. You can't defend with that. And that was my personal journey. So I got involved and I said, I want to see what I can do. Because I also realized that we are living in a wounded nation. South Africa is a wounded country. Back in the days, in the apartheid days, it was only black people that were carrying wounds, and there was a struggle and black people were bleeding. But I can tell you that in these days that we're living in, everybody is carrying wounds. It doesn't matter who you are. When those lights goes off, something in us, it says something is wrong in this country. The crime affects all of us, service delivery, the potholes. I mean, people like Andre and others and Peter, and they're doing what they're doing because we are trying to address the wound of the nation. And the Lord really challenged me and said, who's going to heal the wounds? And that for me was very humbling, because growing up as a black young man, you always see what you see around you. You never see beyond. And I think this is a place where South Africa must be challenged, that we need to look beyond ourselves. We need to look beyond our culture. We even need to look beyond our religion. Is that right?
Oh, yes.
Because the true religion is actually even looking beyond and saying, how can I become a healing? How can I be a Samaritan? And I mean, I know this is a very controversial moment, and a lot of people say you pray for Israel, and I said you also pray for Palestine. Because they are human, and we have to pray for the good of all human beings. So I got involved with my wife, and we joined the first march that was organized by farmers, local farmers there in Senekal. And I mean, we had about, I think, 500 to 1,000 farmers everywhere coming down in the small dorpie of Senekal in a solidarity march. It was a very nice march. I mean, a lot of people were not expecting anything, and people came with white crosses, bakkies, and T-shirts. It was going to be a very cool and peaceful march, but people just making a statement that, can I say the word? Ons is heartful. I know as a pastor I'm not supposed to say that. But the whole situation fell apart because obviously people were very emotional. And I can attest today, and I know when that happened, immediately it was a political thing on the media, and you know, even the whole Senekal was now painted a racist town. But being there as one of the few black people, I can testify that it wasn't a racial reaction. It was people who had a wound and nobody could attend to their wound. It had nothing to do with black and white. And how do I know that? I was there. I was so close even when they were pushing that police van. I was there because I was perplexed. I didn't help. I didn't push it myself, but I was there. But the amazing thing is that nobody, and I mean these were very big farmers, groot boere, but none of them said to me, "Wat soek jy hierso? Wie is jy? Jy word nie hierso nie." And that's why I knew that it was not a racial thing. But we know we live in a South Africa that everything is about race. But I remember walking away from that event, and I was so, because I wasn't expecting that. So I was expecting we're going to demonstrate, and you know, people, they just want their voice to be heard. And I was so discouraged. I remember getting home and I said to my wife, I don't know what to do about this. I wasn't expecting this, and immediately I knew what it meant and how people will interpret it, and I knew the danger that it will put our town in. And as I was contemplating on this, I just felt an edge in my heart, you know, go and pray about it. I mean, I'm a Christian, I'm a believer. So I obeyed the word and I went to pray. And as I prayed, the Lord challenged me and said, stand up, take a responsibility, call all the leaders. I knew them, I knew who was involved, I knew the leaders from the farming community, I knew the leaders, the political leaders, EFF, DA, Freedom Front, everyone. But if you get an edge like that, your natural reaction is no, I don't think this is going to work because people are angry. But anyway, I obeyed and I started to make calls. And every single one of them, they said, we will be there. And that for me was the first miracle. We get there to the meeting the next day, and I'm sitting there and I challenged them and I said, something broke in our town. We have a responsibility to pick up the pieces. It was very simple. It wasn't a pastoral sermon. And I was just expecting them to say, yes, when do we start? Where do we start? But the total opposite happened, and they started slaughtering each other with words. I mean, you have EFF there, you have Freedom Front, you have everybody there, you even have pastors. And I remember sitting there feeling hopeless, and I was thinking to myself, what have I done? It seems like I've put more gas on the fire. And immediately a surprise happened. One of the EFF leader, he rose up and he says, however, the pastor is right. We do have a responsibility as leaders to do something about it. Tianas, one of the farm leaders, he also said, listen, good idea. Let's meet over a braai on the 20th of October and let's get to know each other. And that's how the whole thing that the town came around braai, that's where it actually came from. So we were all happy, working home, and then we even took selfie. I've got pictures of those leaders. I go home, I'm happy. I said, yes, Lord, now something beautiful is about to start. Not knowing that that evening, the leader of the third opposition party was on the news and saying, listen, we are coming on the 16th of October. We're going to paint Senekal red. So now you know when he says he's coming, he's coming. But now I know also, because I mean the farmers have also demonstrated their capabilities. So if he's coming, the farmers are also coming. So it's going to be red and khaki on the other side. So that was the situation facing. And I know sometimes I make it very light because we South Africans, we've got a very good sense of humor. But I remember feeling so worried about the nation. Because the situation of EFF coming down in a small town like Senekal and the farmers coming down, that was a potential for the first civil war to break over South Africa. And I just knew that this now is on another level. To cut the long story short, Johan, I called up pastors that were there. I realized that we need to now get the whole community involved. We organized prayer, and we had a wonderful prayer. Some of the people drove from Pretoria here and joined the prayer there at the showground. And I remember walking back to my home and filling in one of the filling stations there on my way home. And I overheard the conversation of two ladies talking about the situation that they have heard on the news. And the other lady said, I heard that Julius Malema is coming on the 16th of October. He said he's going to paint Senekal red. And there was also pastors praying, and she said something I will never forget. And she said, I wonder if that prayer will work. And that's how serious other people also saw the situation. And when I heard that, I said to myself, and I said, God, because that lady didn't know me, they didn't even realize I was there. I said, but this was not addressed to me. This is addressed to you. Will this prayer work? When the community come together and pray for peace, will that work? Will you hear the Lord? 16th of October, 3 o'clock, I'm on the ground and praying with some of the people there, and we knew where the EFF is gonna be parked, and also where the farmers are going to be parking. And so we were praying around, and I got to see the first bus of the supporters of EFF coming in, and some of the bakkies. We have, and I'm speaking under correction here, we have even close to 3,000, I can't remember. There were so many people. We've never seen so many people in Senekal. Remember, this is a platteland. So it was red and it was khaki everywhere. But listen, these were not group of people coming in the town to have a show. These were heavy armed people with weapons, guns, and rifles. I mean, from all across. It was so funny because I remember I still have that picture. In fact, somebody who was there sent me a picture from one of the EFF supporters. They even had, your golf club and your cricket helmet. So people were ready to fight. So the battle lines were drawn. Listen, I've never been in the army in my life. I've actually loved to be in the army. I was looking forward, but then, 1994 happened and I couldn't go in. I've never been in a war, but many of you have been in the war, and you know the taste, you know the feeling when something is about to happen. And I had a privilege to feel that a war is about to break. It was so tense in that small dorpie that if anything happened, if a bullet was shot, if one stone was thrown, one window was broken, or a club was released, that thing could have taken another direction. You look at what's happening in Israel and Hamas, I think we would have been still in that situation. Let me tell you, there were people who were waiting on it. There were people who wanted it to happen. And that's how volatile the situation was. And I was sharing the story down in George. And as I was sharing this story, an old gentleman, an African gentleman, comes after me and says, "John, I know you." And I said, "How do you know me?" He says, "I was there. You were wearing a black suit." And I was actually wearing a black suit. And then I got his attention. And I said, "That's impossible." He says, "Yes, because I was one of the snipers. I was called up to come and to protect my people. And I had you on my scope." And can you imagine? I was like, "Yo, really?" He said, "You were one of the people, because remember, we thought that you were one of the security details. So if anything happened, we take the key guys out." And that's how the situation was. And let me tell you, a miracle happened there. A miracle that changed the way I believe for South Africa. As I saw the first bus moving in and some of the first bakkies, I also saw the last bus moving out of Senekal and some of the bakkies. Not a bullet shot, nothing, no bloodshed. And in the history of this country, where people have a standoff like that, what are the odds that something could have not happened? And there are so many miracles that I can share if I had time. But I believe that the miracle that we have experienced there, the Lord said, "This is the miracle that I can do it all over in this nation, if you find each other." And just maybe on the lighter note, Johan, one of the funny things that I realized during that day, we had a EFF. I grew up in a township, so black people, they sing. When they are happy, they sing. When they are sad, they sing. When they fight, they do what? They sing. And I also realized that, the Afrikaans people, they love their braai. And when they are happy, they do what? They braai. When they are sad, they also braai. Braai is always there. And I also realized that when they are about to fight, they also braai. And this is how I know. I remember during that day, and this was so funny for me. I even laughed in the midst of that tension. Here you have these scientists, EFF people, and they are singing, and they're getting themselves ready. And I remember there was a white lady, and when she saw these people singing, she wanted to go in and join. I said, no, you don't have to go there. They are not happy. They're actually about to kill you. And that was so funny, but she knows, the setting, but I think she just wanted, just to show that she support the people. But on the other side, you also have the farmers playing Afrikaans music, but they are braaiing, but the rifle is sitting next to him. And that was a very funny picture. But what I've learned out of that is South Africans, there is something that the Lord wants us to see. And it has always been in front of us, to unite and to work together, to find one another. And I believe, and I'm going to say it now, I believe the reason why any government has not worked in South Africa, including this government and even the apartheid government, is not because God has got something against us as racists in South Africa, but it's because if you look at the apartheid government, it was only about one group of people. And that is not the plan of God for South Africa. South Africa is very unique. I've got an opportunity to travel around in Africa, and I've seen how blessed we are. And the reason why even this government is not working is because, again, is what? One group of people. And I said this yesterday, perhaps the Lord is allowing things to fall apart so that we can realize the asset of diversity that we have. That every single one of us planted in this nation, black, white, colored, Indian, it doesn't matter. We are here for a purpose. And we are carrying something that can make this country work. And out of that situation, after everything settled, we started our work. We started to unite and say, you know, there are so many things that can bring us together than those that actually divides us. And we started identifying those things, and one of them was the potholes. The potholes were the biggest problem because the potholes also prevented access from the people in Mathuhle, the township there, coming into the town. And we say we're going to start with the road that is broken, building that bridge. So we managed to fill up about 4,000 potholes, can you believe? And that was not even all of the potholes in Senekal. And it was so amazing to see that once people started working together to solve issue that affects all of them, a natural thing about humans start to happen. They start to connect to one another. Relationships start to form. And out of that, a project where we started working together, we had so many relationships that are very, very important that started to build up. And one of those relationships is the relationship between Giel Baker and Petrus Minyatso. So now Giel is a farmer, he's got a land there, but he's also a professor here. He was actually he was our first chairman before I took over of Senekal Mathuhle Community Forum. But he's not a Sienki now, he's a grown-up man, but he's a boer. You can see he's a very strong man. And Petrus Minyatso, he's the taxi boss. He's the region chairperson of the taxis around there. And for their relationship to form, that for me was so beautiful to see that a farmer and a taxi boss can actually have a relationship. In fact, Peter can even share more because there in Fixbeck, the taxi bosses and also the farmers, they came together and they boycotted the road that connects from Bloemfontein to Bethlehem to say the government must fix that road. And in fact, now they have appointed a contractor to fix that road because the farmers and the taxi bosses, they came together and they said enough is enough. And these are just few examples of what we can achieve if we find each other. Each and every one of us, we've got a special gift. There is something about the Afrikaner people. Take away the apartheid and all the negativity. But you cannot take away that the Afrikaner people are builders. They are the only single white nation in Africa that came not to take away, but to build. And today, and as I stand here, and I think I'm standing on behalf also of you, Lennox, and also our black brothers. And I want to say, forgive us for messing up and breaking what you have built up. You know, when I saw what happened there in Senekal for the first time, a white man burns, a white man destroys, then I realized that the situation has gotten to a place where if we don't do something, we're going to lose everything. But I want to acknowledge you for building up in this nation. We've got so many things that we can do as black people. We also have our gifts that you don't have. Colored people, they've got a gift that we don't have. In fact, I always say, if there are bridge builders in South Africa, it should be colored people. Because we can all of us, we can see ourselves in them. They are very talented. They can swim. They can also dance. They can. So they are perfect version of all of us. Yes. I mean, they've got all the skills. And that's what we need to start. That's the culture we need to cultivate in South Africa, where we start to recognize these different gifts and say, listen, there's something that you have that I don't have. And that's what I hope for, and that's what I pray for, even in government, that if we can have a government that can embrace the diversity that is in this nation, we don't deserve to be where we are, people. With all the skills, with all the talent, we don't deserve to be where we are. And we can change that. It only takes one person to take the first step, flow against the stream, and others will begin to follow. So I want to rest my speech there, Johan, but also to say thank you for who you are. And I know a lot of you, you've got stories that are even greater than the stories that we have shared with you today. But we just want to encourage you. It's not all and lost, as Andre said. Don't leave South Africa. You don't have any other country that the Lord has planted you. You were planted here and you have to bear fruits here in South Africa. Thank you so much.